Washington, D.C. is a city of secrets. Every handshake, every backroom deal, every smiling face on Capitol Hill hides something darker underneath. Most people never get close enough to see it, but I'm not most people. I've made a career out of knowing the things nobody else should. I'm Ethan Blake, fixer for hire. When politicians, CEOs, and power brokers make mistakes, they call me. They trust me to clean up their messes, to make sure their dirty laundry stays hidden. That's the way this city works. You either know how to play the game or get played by it. Tonight, though, it feels like the game is slipping away from me. I'm sitting in my Georgetown townhouse, watching Sarah, my fiancée, move through the kitchen, her dark hair falling loosely over her shoulders. She's pouring herself a glass of wine, her lips curling into that soft smile I've always loved. But tonight, I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. "Long day?" she asks, glancing up at me as she swirls the wine in her glass. I nod, forcing a smile. "You could say that." Sarah is one of the best journalists in D.C., one of the few who hasn't been bought off by lobbyists or political parties. She's relentless, driven, always chasing the truth no matter the cost. I used to love that about her, but now it scares the hell out of me. Because lately, there's been talk of a journalist digging into my biggest client, Senator Miles Hunter. A corruption scandal hit the headlines last week, and I've been working around the clock to keep the worst of it buried. But the whispers point to something bigger, something that could blow everything wide open. And the name floating around the rumor mill, Sarah Landon. I take a deep breath, my chest tightening. I have to believe she wouldn't go there. Sarah wouldn't investigate Hunter, not without telling me. Not like this. But the longer I sit there, watching her glance at her phone, the more the doubt creeps in. I know how this city works, and I know that in D.C., trust is a luxury no one can afford. The next morning, I'm at my desk, staring at the latest intel from Hunter's legal team. The case is bad, worse than I thought. The press is circling like vultures, and rumors are swirling about a bigger story. There's talk of someone inside the Hunter camp feeding information to the media. My phone buzzes. The caller ID is blocked. "This is Blake," I answer, keeping my voice steady. There's a pause on the other end, followed by a low, familiar voice. "You've got a problem, Ethan. Someone's digging into Hunter, and they're getting close." It's not one of the usual suspects. I lean forward, my grip tightening on the phone. "Who is it?" The voice on the other end sighs. "Landon. Sarah Landon." The world seems to stop for a moment. My mind races to catch up with the words, to make sense of what I've just heard. "Sarah? No, there's no way." But the longer the silence stretches, the more I realize that it makes too much sense. Sarah's been working late, taking phone calls in the other room, acting distant. She's hiding something. "Where'd you hear this?" I ask, my voice tight. "Doesn't matter. She's putting the pieces together. You need to handle this before it blows up." The line goes dead. I stare at the phone for a long moment, my heart pounding in my chest. There's only one way to find out if it's true. That night, I sit across from Sarah in our living room, trying to act normal. She's flipping through a stack of papers, a glass of wine beside her. She looks calm, like there isn't a storm brewing just outside our door. "So what are you working on?" I ask, trying to sound casual. She looks up, smiling softly. "Oh, just the usual chaos. Senate stuff. I've got a few leads on new stories, but nothing solid yet." I nod, but my mind is spinning. She's lying. I can feel it. "What kind of stories?" I press. Her smile falters, just for a second. "I don't want to jinx anything. You know how sources are. They dry up if you talk too soon." I study her face, looking for cracks in the facade. She's hiding something. I know it, but I can't confront her. Not yet. If I'm wrong, if she's not the one digging into Hunter, then I'll be opening a door I can't close. "Don't worry," she says, leaning over to kiss my cheek. "You'll be the first to know if it's big." I force a smile, but my gut is twisted in knots. She's keeping secrets from me, and I'm going to find out why. Days pass, and the tension between us only gets worse. Every time she glances at her phone, every time she steps out to take a call, I feel it. Something is off. I've been in this business too long not to recognize the signs. She's lying to me. She's hiding something big, and it's only a matter of time before I find out what. I can't wait any longer. I make the call. Jacob Graves answers on the second ring. "Graves? I need you to look into someone for me." Discreetly, I say, leaning back in my chair, my heart pounding in my chest. There's a pause. "This about work?" "No," I say, my voice low. "It's Sarah." Another pause, longer this time. I can hear the flick of a lighter on the other end, Graves lighting up a cigarette. "You sure you want to do this, Blake?" I hesitate. "Do I? I've never crossed this line before, never mixed business with my personal life." But this is different. I need to know. Yeah, I'm sure. All right. I'll get back to you in a few days. I hang up, the weight of what I've just done settling over me like a blanket of guilt. I've crossed the line, but if Sarah's really digging into Hunter, I don't have a choice. I need to know before it's too late. By the end of the week, my nerves are shot. Every time I see Sarah, every time she flashes that perfect smile, I can't help but wonder if it's all an act. She's been staying late at the office, telling me she's tracking down sources, but I've been in this game long enough to know when someone's covering their tracks. Graves calls me on Friday afternoon. We need to meet, tonight, usual place. I text Sarah, telling her I have to work late, and head out to meet Graves. My stomach churns as I drive through the city. I don't know what I'll do if Graves has found something. What if Sarah is working on Hunter? What if she's lying to me? When I arrive, Graves is already there, sitting at a corner booth with a half-empty glass of whiskey in front of him. His eyes meet mine, and I know before he even speaks that it's bad. I sit down, my heart pounding in my chest. What did you find? Graves takes a long drag from his cigarette, then pulls out a small envelope and slides it across the table to me. She's been meeting with someone, a lot. I open the envelope and pull out a few grainy photos. My stomach clenches. There's Sarah, walking into a restaurant with a man I don't recognize. Tall, well-dressed, someone important. But it's not just a business meeting. There's something too comfortable about the way she's leaning in, too familiar in how close they are. Who is he? I ask, my voice tight. Mark Harris, works in the Senate. He's been linked to some backroom deals, but nothing's stuck. He's a ghost. I stare at the photos, my mind reeling. What the hell is Sarah doing meeting with someone like Harris? Does she know about his connection to Hunter? Is she feeding him information? Or is he feeding her? She's seen him 3 times this week, Graves continues. Late night meetings, always off the grid. Whatever she's working on, it's bigger than just a story. My blood runs cold. Sarah's hiding something. Maybe it's not just professional, maybe it's personal. When I get home that night, Sarah's already there, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open in front of her, headphones on, as she listens to some interview. For a moment, I just watch her, trying to reconcile the woman I love with the woman in those photos. But the doubt is too heavy. The images of her with Harris keep flashing through my mind. Sarah, I say, pulling her attention away from her laptop. She pulls off her headphones and smiles. Hey, you're home early. I don't smile back. We need to talk. Her expression shifts, a flicker of concern crossing her face before she covers it up. What's wrong? I sit down across from her, trying to keep my voice calm. I need to know what's going on with your story, the one you're working on. She looks confused, shaking her head. Ethan, I told you, I'm following some leads, but nothing concrete yet. Don't lie to me, I snap, my voice sharper than I intended. I know you've been meeting with Mark Harris. Her face pales. For a second, she's completely exposed. Caught. Then she recovers, her expression hardening. How do you know about Harris? I have my ways, I say, leaning forward. Now tell me, what the hell are you doing with him? She stands, crossing her arms as her gaze turns cold. This isn't your business, Ethan. My job, my sources, they're not something you get to control. This isn't about control, I snap back. It's about trust. You've been hiding things from me, and I need to know why. She takes a step toward the bedroom. Some things are better left unsaid. Her words hang in the air like a weight I can't lift. The silence in the apartment that night is deafening. My mind is racing, replaying the conversation over and over, trying to make sense of it. I keep seeing those photos in my head. Sarah with Harris. Their bodies too close for it to be just business. I call Graves. I need you to dig deeper into Harris. I want everything. Graves sighs on the other end. You sure you want to go down this road? I don't hesitate this time. Yeah, I'm sure. The days after my conversation with Sarah are a blur. I throw myself into work, trying to drown out the doubt gnawing at me. I spend hours in backrooms and boardrooms dealing with the fallout from Senator Hunter's scandal, bribing the right people, and making sure the worst of it stays buried. But no matter how many fires I put out, I can't shake the feeling that the biggest one is right here, in my own home. Graves calls me a week later. I've got something. You're not going to like it. My stomach clenches. Tell me. Harris is more than just a power broker. He's been linked to several backdoor deals with major players in D.C., but he's never been caught. He's careful, real careful, but there's more. Your fiancée? She's in deep. What do you mean? I ask, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turn white. Sarah's not just working on a story. She's been meeting with Harris regularly, and from what I can tell, she's feeding him information. They're planning something big, Ethan, bigger than just a Senate expose. I feel like the ground is falling out from under me. What the hell are they working on? Graves hesitates, and I can hear him take a long drag from his cigarette before he speaks. It's not just about Hunter. Harris is tied into a network of bribes, influence peddling, and off-the-books deals. Sarah's gathering everything. Documents, recordings, testimonies. They're putting together a book, something that'll blow up not just Hunter, but the whole political machine. And you're in the crosshairs too. The world tilts. She's using me. Graves doesn't say anything for a moment, letting the weight of it sink in. Yeah, Ethan, she's using you. I sit back in my chair, staring at the city skyline through my office window. Everything I've built, everything I've worked for, is teetering on the edge of collapse. Sarah, my Sarah, is at the center of it, and she's been playing me from the start. I need more, I say, my voice low, cold. I need everything on Harris. I want to know every skeleton in his closet, every dirty deal he's ever made. I'll see what I can dig up, Graves says, his voice cautious. But be careful, Blake. This could get messy. I hang up, my mind spinning with the weight of what I've just learned. Sarah has been gathering information on me, on my clients, our entire relationship. It's been a cover for her investigation, a way for her to get closer to the story she's been building. The woman I thought I loved, the woman I trusted, has been using me to destroy everything I've built. That night, I confront Sarah. She comes home late, her face lit up with excitement. She drops her bag by the door and walks over to me, her eyes sparkling. Hey, I've got some news. We need to talk. I cut her off, my voice hard, cold. Sarah freezes for a moment, her smile faltering. What's going on? I don't answer. Instead, I pull out the envelope Graves gave me and toss it onto the table in front of her. She hesitates, then reaches for it, her hands trembling slightly as she pulls out the photos of her and Harris. Her face drains of color. She stares at the pictures, then looks up at me, her eyes wide with shock. How? She starts, but I cut her off. Don't, I snap. Don't lie to me, Sarah. I know everything. She swallows hard, her eyes flickering with something I can't quite read. Fear, regret, maybe both. It's not what you think, Ethan. Really, I say, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Because it looks to me like you've been working with Harris to take me down. Her lips press into a thin line, and for the first time, I see the walls she's built around herself begin to crack. It's not about you, Ethan. It's about something bigger. This city, it's rotten to the core. You know that as well as I do as Alice. Harris is part of it, but so are the people you work for, the people you protect. So what? I snap, pacing the room. You decided to play the hero, expose the corruption, tear it all down. And what, Sarah? You were going to take me down with it? Was that part of the plan too? She flinches at my words, but she doesn't deny it. I didn't want it to be like this, she says softly, her voice breaking. But you have to understand. I couldn't turn away from this. Harris gave me access to things no one else could. This story, it's bigger than you or me. I stare at her, the woman I thought I loved, and all I can feel is cold, empty anger. And when were you planning on telling me, Sarah? After the book came out, after you destroyed everything I've worked for? She doesn't answer. She just looks at me, tears welling in her eyes. And for a moment, I almost believe that she's sorry. Almost. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispers. But you did, I say, my voice flat. You already have. The apartment feels like a tomb after she leaves, the silence suffocating. I sit at the kitchen table, staring at the photos Graves gave me, my mind numb. The woman I thought I could trust more than any time, the woman I loved, was never real. Our entire relationship was a lie, a part of her game, but two can play at this. I pick up my phone and dial Graves. He answers on the second ring. Yeah, I need you to dig deeper into Harris. I don't care how well he thinks he's covered his tracks. I want everything. There's a pause on the other end, then the sound of Graves lighting up a cigarette. You sure you want to do this, Blake? You're not gonna like what you find. I don't care, I say, my voice tight with barely contained rage. Just find it. The next few days are a blur. I throw myself into work, trying to keep my head above water as Senator Hunter's scandal continues to spiral out of control. I meet with his legal team, trying to keep the worst of it out of the headlines, but my mind is elsewhere. All I can think about is Sarah, about Harris, about the way she used me, the way she lied to me. Graves calls me late one night. I've got what you asked for. What did you find? Harris isn't just a player in D.C. He's a kingmaker. He's been running off the books deals for years. lining his pockets with bribes from every corner of Capitol Hill. And he's careful, real careful. But I found something. He's been funneling money through a network of shell companies, hiding his tracks in offshore accounts. If this gets out, it'll destroy him. My heart pounds as I listen, my mind racing with the possibilities. Can you prove it? Yeah, Graves says, his voice grim. But it's gonna take time. He's good at covering his tracks, and if we move too fast, we might not be able to make it stick. We don't need time, I say, already forming a plan. We need leverage. I want Harris to know we have this, and I want him scared. This isn't about taking him down in the press. It's about making him run. Graves chuckles on the other end. I like where this is going. The next afternoon, I sit across from Harris in a dimly lit bar. He's calm, collected, his face unreadable as he sips his drink. But I can see the tension in his jaw, the tightness in his grip on the glass. He knows why we're here. I know what you've been doing, I say, sliding a folder across the table toward him. The bribes, the offshore accounts, the shell companies, I've got it all. Harris's face remains neutral as he opens the folder and flips through the documents, but I can see the flicker of fear in his eyes as he reads. He slams the folder shut and looks up at me, his jaw clenched. You're bluffing. I lean forward, my voice low and dangerous. I don't bluff. Harris glares at me, his eyes narrowing. You're playing a dangerous game, Blake. I learned from the best, I say with a cold smile. But you've lost. You get the hell out of D.C., or I make sure this hits the front page of every newspaper in the country. For a long moment, Harris just stares at me, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he stands up and walks out of the bar. I watch him go, the satisfaction of victory settling over me. Harris is finished. I've won. But as I sit there, alone in the bar, the thought of Sarah lingers in the back of my mind. What will she do when she finds out I've dismantled everything she's been working for? What will she do when she realizes I've beaten her at her own game? The thought doesn't bring me the satisfaction I thought it would. Sarah doesn't find out about Harris's fall until the next week. She walks into the apartment, her face lit up with excitement. She's practically glowing as she pulls her laptop out of her bag. Hey, she says, her voice bright. You're home early. I've got some big news. The story, everything we've been working on. It's all coming together. Harris and I. Harris is gone, I say, cutting her off. She freezes, her face paling. What? I took care of him, I say, standing up and crossing the room to face her. He's out of D.C. for good. Sarah stares at me, her eyes wide with shock and confusion. What the hell are you talking about? I know everything, Sarah, I say, my voice cold. I know you were working with Harris. I know you've been feeding him information for months, planning to take me down along with Hunter, but it's over. Harris is gone. The story is dead. She blinks, her eyes filling with disbelief. Ethan, you don't understand. No, I snap, my voice sharp. I understand perfectly. You used me. You lied to me. You've been playing me this whole time. Her lips tremble as she takes a step back, her eyes searching my face for something. Some hint of the man she thought I was. It wasn't like that, she whispers. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did, I say, my voice flat. You already did. Sarah doesn't say anything else. She just grabs her bag and walks out of the apartment without looking back. For a long time, I just stand there, staring at the door, feeling nothing but cold emptiness. The woman I thought I loved, the woman I trusted, was never real. Everything we had was a lie, a part of her plan. But I've won. Harris is gone. The story is dead. Sarah has nothing left. And yet, as I sit down at the kitchen table, staring at the empty space where she once stood, I can't help but feel like I've lost something too. I've spent my entire life playing this game, learning the rules, knowing when to strike first. But now, with everything I've built still intact, all I can feel is the cold weight of my own choices. Maybe that's all there ever was. The days after Sarah's departure blur together. I go through the motions, wake up, handle my clients, smooth over the last of Senator Hunter's crisis. The media's heat is starting to die down. We've managed to keep the worst of it out of the headlines, but it doesn't feel like a victory. Without Sarah here, the apartment feels hollow. The quiet eats at me, the absence of her presence heavier than any of the scandals I've fixed over the years. I've faced down men with the power to ruin lives in a heartbeat, but somehow, this feels worse. I should feel relieved that the threat is gone, that Harris has fled D.C. with his tail between his legs, that Sarah's investigation is dead. But all I can think about is how easily she used me, how easily I let her. And yet, despite everything, I think about her constantly. I wonder where she is now, what she's doing, whether she's with Harris or trying to salvage what's left of her career. The worst part is I miss her. I know I shouldn't. I know she betrayed me, but the memories of her, the real her, or at least the version of her I thought was real, keep surfacing. The way she used to curl up next to me on the couch, falling asleep halfway through a movie. The way her eyes lit up when she got excited about a new lead, even though she'd never tell me the details. The way she used to look at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. But that was a lie. All of it was a lie. I pour myself another drink, the amber liquid swirling in the glass as I stare out the window at the city below. Washington, D.C. is just as cold and unforgiving as ever. The skyline is dotted with monuments to power and corruption, each one a reminder of the game I've spent my life playing. But now it feels different. Now it feels like the game is playing me. A week later, I get a call from Jacob Graves. "You still want that dirt on Harris?" he asks, his voice gruff through the phone. I sit up, shaking off the haze of alcohol and self-pity. "What did you find?" He's laying low, but he hasn't left town entirely. He's still got some of his connections working for him, funneling money through the same offshore accounts we found earlier. But he's cautious. He knows you're onto him. I grip the phone tighter. "Harris, he's still a threat, no matter how far he's run. If Sarah isn't with him, then he's out there alone, biding his time. I can't afford to let him slip through the cracks." "Keep digging," I say. "Find out where he's hiding. I want every last piece of leverage we can get." Graves exhales, the sound of a lighter flicking in the background. "You sure about this, Blake? You already took him out of the picture. What more do you need?" I pause, staring out the window again. I need him to stay gone. Sarah hasn't contacted me, not once. She's disappeared from the DC scene completely, leaving behind no trace. The media doesn't even know she was working on the book. Her name has been scrubbed from the few rumors that surfaced after Harris fled. She's gone. For the first few weeks, I'm relieved. I tell myself it's for the best, that Sarah walking away was the cleanest solution to the problem. But as the days pass, the silence grows heavier. I wonder if she's somewhere licking her wounds or planning her next move. Part of me expects her to fight back, to come at me with another expose, another attempt to bring down the world I've built. But she doesn't. There's nothing, not even a whisper. I try to lose myself in work, meeting with clients, smoothing over their latest scandals. But the satisfaction that used to come from winning, from beating the system, feels thin, hollow. I've spent years perfecting my ability to stay detached, to keep people at arm's length. It's how I've survived in this city, how I've managed to thrive where others have fallen. But Sarah was different. She got inside, past the walls I didn't even know I'd built. And now that she's gone, it feels like she took a part of me with her. I'm sitting at my desk one evening, staring blankly at a report from Hunter's legal team, when my phone buzzes. It's Graves. "We've got him," he says, his voice thick with urgency. "Harris slipped up. I found a paper trail leading back to one of his offshore accounts. Bribes from 2 senators and a lobbyist. It's enough to bury him." My heart pounds in my chest, adrenaline surging through me. Is it solid? Solid enough. But here's the thing, Ethan. If you go after him now, it's not just Harris who's going to go down. The people tied to these accounts, they're your clients too. I close my eyes, the weight of his words crashing over me. My clients, the same people who trust me to keep their secrets, to keep them safe. If I take Harris down, I'll be taking them down too. And once the floodgates open, there's no telling how far it'll go. "Are you sure about this?" Graves asks, his voice softer now. "You're playing with fire, Blake. This could destroy everything." I lean back in my chair, staring up at the ceiling. I've spent my entire career walking the tightrope between power and corruption, keeping myself just far enough out of the line of fire to stay clean. But this could unravel it all. But Harris is still a threat. He knows too much about me, about my clients. If I let him go, he'll come back. He always does. I let out a slow breath. "Do it." Graves is silent for a moment, then he lets out a low chuckle. "You're the boss." I hang up the phone, the decision made, but the weight in my chest doesn't lift. I've won, I've got Harris cornered, but all I can think about is what I'm about to lose. It's a rainy night in DC when everything finally falls apart. I'm sitting at the bar of a quiet hotel, nursing a drink, and watching the raindrops streak down the window. The city outside is a blur of lights and shadows, people moving through the streets like ghosts. I've spent my life playing this game, but tonight it feels like the game is playing me. I take another sip of whiskey, the burn doing nothing to chase away the cold that's settled in my chest. And then, she walks in. I almost don't recognize her at first. Her hair pulled back, her clothes more casual than I've ever seen her wear. But it's her. Sorry, my heart stops. She moves through the bar with purpose, her eyes scanning the room until they land on me. For a moment, I think she's going to turn around and walk out, but she doesn't. She walks over, her movements deliberate, like she's made a decision she can't take back. "Ethan," she says, her voice soft but steady. I don't respond at first. I just stare at her, unsure of what to say. The last time I saw her, I had torn her world apart, and yet here she is, standing in front of me like she never left. She takes the seat across from me, her eyes never leaving mine. I'm not here to fight. I raise an eyebrow, my defense is already rising. Then what are you here for? She hesitates, then sighs. To tell you the truth. The words hang in the air between us, heavy and loaded. For a moment, I can't tell if she's serious. The truth? What truth? After everything that's happened, after everything she's done, the idea that there's some truth left to tell feels absurd. But she looks different. Older maybe, tired. There's no spark of excitement in her eyes, no fire, just resignation. I don't care about the story anymore, she says, her voice soft but steady. Harris, the book. It doesn't matter. It was never about them. It was about something else. I narrow my eyes, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And what was that? She looks down at her hands, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. It was about us. My breath catches in my throat. Us? Sarah nods, her eyes finally meeting mine again. I thought I could balance it. I thought I could have both. The career, the truth, and you. But I was wrong. I was wrong about everything. I shake my head, anger rising in my chest. You used me, Sarah. You lied to me. You fed Harris information behind my back, planning to expose everything I've built. I know, she whispers, her voice breaking. I know I did, and I'll never forgive myself for that. There's a long silence between us, the noise of the bar fading into the background as we sit there, staring at each other. For the first time in weeks, I see her, really see her. Not the journalist, not the woman chasing a story, but the person underneath it all. And for the first time, I wonder if I ever really knew her at all. Why? I ask, my voice low. Why did you do it? She takes a deep breath, her shoulders sagging. Because I thought I could change things. I thought I could make a difference. But I lost sight of what mattered. I lost sight of you. I want to say something. I want to tell her that it's too late, that nothing she says now can fix what's broken between us. But the words don't come. All I can feel is the cold emptiness that's been growing inside me ever since she left. We sit in silence for what feels like hours, the weight of everything we've lost pressing down on us like a physical force. When she finally stands, there's a look in her eyes that I can't quite place, something like sadness but deeper, like regret. I'm leaving D.C., she says quietly, her voice barely audible over the noise of the bar. For good. I don't respond. I don't ask where she's going or what she plans to do. I just nod, because there's nothing left to say. She turns to go, but pauses just before reaching the door. For a moment, she stands there, her back to me, her shoulders slumped, and then, without looking back, she walks out of my life for the last time. The next morning, I wake up to a city that feels emptier than it did the day before. Harris is gone, Sarah is gone, and Senator Hunter's crisis is under control. On the surface, everything is fine. Everything is back to normal. But as I stand by the window, staring out at the city below, I can't shake the feeling that something is missing, something important, something I'll never get back. I've won. I've beaten the system, kept my clients safe, and ensured my own survival. But in the end, the victory feels hollow. Because in this city, love and trust are luxuries you can't afford, and once you lose them, there's no getting them back. I down the last of my whiskey and close my eyes, letting the weight of everything settle over me like a shroud. This is the life I've chosen, and now it's all I have left.